Imagine a time of chaos, when knights rode to war, kingdoms rose and fell, and the shadow of the unknown loomed over the edges of every map. In the midst of this uncertainty, a name began to spread across Europe like wildfire. Prester John, the mythical Christian king who ruled a utopian kingdom somewhere in the east. They said his lands were filled with rivers of gold, towering palaces, and armies so vast they could destroy any foe. But where was he? And was he even real? The quest to find Prester John became one of the most extraordinary and bizarre obsessions in medieval Europe, blending faith, desperation, and a touch of fantasy. Let's uncover the incredible story of the king who never existed, but still managed to change history. The world of the 12th century was one of struggle. Europe was locked in a brutal power struggle with the Islamic empires of the Middle East. The Crusades raged on, and Jerusalem, a city sacred to Christians, was often under threat. Back home, famine, disease, and political turmoil made life precarious. People were desperate for a savior, someone who could tip the scales in their favor. And then, like a beacon of light, came the legend of Prester John. The story began with a letter, an extraordinary document that seemingly appeared out of nowhere. It claimed to be written by Prester John himself, a priest-king who ruled a paradise hidden far to the east. In his kingdom, Christians lived in harmony, surrounded by wealth and wonder. Most importantly, Prester John promised to march his mighty armies westward to help Europe reclaim Jerusalem. The letter spread like wildfire, reaching the Pope, kings, and commoners alike. It was exactly what they wanted to hear. But where exactly was this mythical kingdom? The letter described a land of unimaginable riches and wonders. Prester John wrote of crystal-clear rivers that flowed with gold, trees that bore gemstones, and creatures like unicorns and griffins that roamed his lands. His kingdom was a utopia, where justice, peace, and Christianity reigned supreme. The people were immortal, diseases were cured by magical springs, and sin was non-existent. But the letter wasn't just a fairy tale. It claimed that Prester John was ready to ally with Europe and destroy their enemies. The question was, where exactly was he? Early accounts placed him in India, a land that Europeans knew little about, but associated with exotic riches and ancient religions. The letter sparked a wave of expeditions. Brave, and sometimes reckless, adventurers set out to find Prester John. They crossed deserts, jungles, and mountains, driven by a mix of faith and greed. One of the earliest expeditions was led by Bishop Otto of Freising, who claimed to have heard of a powerful Christian king ruling beyond Persia. But every expedition ended in disappointment. The lands were vast, the dangers were great, and the mythical king remained elusive. As explorers ventured further east, they realized how little they truly knew about the world. Some returned with fantastical tales, claiming to have seen signs of Prester John's kingdom, golden rivers, mysterious cities. But these were often exaggerations or outright lies. By the 14th century, the focus shifted from Asia to Africa. Ethiopia, a Christian kingdom with ancient traditions, seemed like the perfect candidate for Prester John's realm. Unlike the European kingdoms, Ethiopia was surrounded by Islamic empires, giving it the allure of a Christian stronghold in hostile territory. European emissaries traveled to Ethiopia, hoping to confirm the connection. They were amazed by Ethiopia's ancient churches, its rich traditions, and its unique form of Christianity. But they quickly realized that this was no utopia. Ethiopia was a real kingdom with its own struggles, not the mythical paradise described in the letter. Still, the association stuck. For centuries, Ethiopia became the focal point of the legend, inspiring further exploration and diplomacy. As the legend evolved, Some began to link Prester John to the Mongols. When Genghis Khan's armies began conquering vast territories, early European reports described them as a Christian people led by a mighty king. For a brief moment, Europe hoped that the Mongols were the allies they had been searching for. Diplomatic missions were sent to the Mongols, bearing gifts and messages for Prester John, but the truth was far from what they expected. The Mongols were not Christians, and their leaders had no interest in alliances with Europe. Once again, the myth of Prester John faded into the background. Why did the legend of Prester John endure for so long? Because it wasn't just a story, it was a symbol. For medieval Europe, Prester John represented hope. He was the embodiment of a better world, a savior who could unite Christendom and bring peace to a fractured world. Even though he never existed, the search for Prester John pushed the boundaries of exploration. It connected Europe to distant lands, laying the groundwork for the Age of Discovery.
It also showed the power of myth to inspire and shape history, even when the truth remains elusive. Prester John may have been a fabrication, but his story is a testament to humanity's endless curiosity and hope. It reminds us that even the most fantastical dreams can drive real-world change. Perhaps the real question isn't where Prester John's kingdom was, but what it represents for those who dared to believe. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the past. Subscribe to Legends of the Crescent for more stories where myth meets history.